Julie Johnson, formerly Julie Dawson, graduated from Arnett High School in 2001, enrolled to play basketball in Stillwater at Oklahoma State, following a decorated career that included being a two-time Daily Oklahoman Super 5 and Player of the Year selection. 2003, she transferred to SWOSU to compete for the Lady Bulldog basketball and rodeo teams. Dawson made an immediate impact on the hardwood and was named the Lone Star North Newcomer of the Year and helped SWOSU improve in each of her 3 seasons. That concluded with a Lone Star North Division Championship in 2005 and 2006. She was a 3-time first-team All-LSC North selection and the 2005-2006 LSC North Division Player of the Year, averaging nearly 16 points and nearly 7 rebounds a game. The same season, Dawson became SWOSU's first All-American of the NCAA Division II era after she earned an honorable mention spot on the Division II Bulletin All-American team. Her career total of 1,385 points continues to rank 6th in program history, while her 641 rebounds is the 5th most in Lady Dog history. Dawson was also a member of the SWOSU rodeo team for 3 years, competing in breakaway roping, goat tying, and barrel racing. During her senior season, she was a member of a Central Plains Regional Championship team and qualified for the College National Finals Rodeo in breakaway, helping her team to a 3rd-place national finish. Ladies and gentlemen, Julie Johnson.
Breathe. I would have felt a lot more comfortable up here if I would have had a basketball or a rope. I can do all kinds of pressure situations, but I'm definitely out of my comfort zone up here and speaking to y'all, so we'll see if I make it through this without either crying, thanks to my mom, but I'm one of those people that wears my heart on my shoulder. I guess you could say that the easiest place for me to start out was whenever I first came into this world. Some people said I was possibly setting some records then. I was 24 inches long. You don't see that in a baby very often. I'm wanting to say it was like maybe a week or two once I got home. I wasn't very old the first time they set me up on a horse. And they jinxed me right there. Because as long as I can remember, it's either been a horse that I either cared about, or if not, I had a basketball in my hand. Those are the 2 things that kind of, as long as I can remember, have been what balanced me. I guess just mom and dad, y'all deserve many, many thanks that y'all don't get and have been long deserved. Thank you very much, and I love y'all. I never thought of myself as being anywhere close to thinking that I should be sitting in a room with a lot of y'all today. Kelly Litch, maybe if I would have got 1 more year, I could have given you a run for your money. I did only do 3. I'll start with thanking some other people that a few of them are not with us anymore, but they were a big influence for me whenever I did come to Southwestern. Dr. Joe Phillips, and again, Dad, and Dr. Fred Rule. They always, most of the time, made sure that our rodeo, at least while I was here, had a saddle to give away, and they helped with that a lot. Cecil Perkins, he was our athletic director at the time, a great, great guy. The girls, many, many friendships that I guess I used to always wish that I had a sister, because growing up, that's another thing about me. I'm the baby of 4 and also the only girl. So rough and tough is the only way I knew to grow up and kind of go at things. I think there's a story whenever I was 2 or 3 years old that Mom walked around the corner and my 2 brothers had pushed me up on the house, and they were trying to talk me into jumping down on the trampoline. And they were, oh, we'll catch her. Being around Dad, it was kind of always the take no prisoners, but it was another one of his sayings was, whenever it's too tough for everybody else, it's just right for us. And that's kind of how I've went about life. I did go to Stillwater whenever I first graduated high school, and I guess right off the bat, I knew that I didn't really like it there, and I think probably the key ingredient was that I didn't get to rodeo while I was there. I went up there thinking that I was going to get to, but it didn't work out that way. So, another thing that I'd like to thank my folks for that a lot of people just don't get is the caliber of horses that they kept me mounted on. One of them in particular that I would like to just say his name, because you don't have horses like that very often, but I'd say he's responsible for helping me grow up a lot. And just being here through everything, and he's not with us anymore, but his name was Blue Duck. And he taught me from whenever I was a little bitty how to rope, and he actually made it through high school and college, and then some. But everybody, all the students knew him. He was one of them that you could not only break away, but anything that you asked of him, you could jump on him, and he would do his job no matter what. You could bulldog on him. I even had to run barrels on him, I think. But just everybody that's been there and supported me since I was little bitty till now. I'm sure that there was probably lots of times that y'all didn't want to, but I do appreciate you being there. And I'm not very good at expressing it, but I'm truly touched by this. What an honor. A great, great honor. I was surprised. I'm still surprised. I'm in shock. Speechless, you could say. I guess a few more things that I can add to it is growing up, Dad always messed with bulldogging horses. And we always had steers around there. And most of the time I would get stuck being shoot help. But we didn't have calves all that much. And so I always laughed because he would always teach me how to do certain things if I didn't have like the resources there. Well, one of the first things that he did is he went in there and got a basketball, and he let a little bit of air out of it. And he told me, he said, whenever you get through kicking that thing and chasing it after it and roping it, because it teaches you how to rope a moving object, then we'll think about getting you some calves. And I probably wore a dirt trail around that barn kicking that basketball and roping it. The poor cowboys that would come and help us on the ranch, there's a few of them that they played so many games of pig and horse that I wore them out. But I never was ever bored growing up. If you went in and said you were bored, then you were going to get put to work. But I was perfectly happy either swinging my rope or riding my horse. But other than that, I always had a basketball in my hand. Mom and Dad both, I'd make them get out there and guard me, rebound for me. Every situation I could think of, I'd bounce it off the house like somebody was passing it to me. Most of the time, there was only certain spots right there in front of the house that I could shoot from, because I usually had a limb from the tree hanging down to where I had to dodge it, so that was my contender sometimes. The basketball gym, I would say one word to describe it, it was my sanctuary. And horses did the same thing. Like, that's kind of what made all of the frustrations, it cleared my mind. And I probably will never be able to give back to what those two things have given me, even if I tried the rest of my life to do that. Like I said again, I thank Mom and Dad, my family, my supporters, my husband, my little girl. That's another new, yes, my mother-in-law and father-in-law. And I'm glad that y'all are here. It means a lot to me. To brag a little bit, not the only basketball player in the family. Fred, or I like to call him Little Freddie. Sorry, I had to do that. He was a pretty good basketball player himself at Northwestern. One more funny story that I'll add is in all my playing years, I was actually pretty fortunate that I didn't have to face a whole lot of injury, but I did have bad ankles. And there was one particular game in high school that Dad had to pull out a few of his old training tricks because I don't remember what half it was in, but it was a pretty crucial game, and I stepped on a girl's foot, and even with ankle braces and being taped like most of my career I rolled it pretty good. And Daddy came down there and looked at it, and he made me put my ankle brace back on, made me put my shoe back on, and he taped the whole thing. And he had quite a bit of tape on there. I thought he was about done. And he was hollering at some old farmer man behind him and asked him, he said, "Hey, you got any starting fluid?" And I was like, what in the world is going on? I think that everybody in that Cheyenne gym that day probably, you could say, was a little high off of starting fluid fumes. But whenever you dang sure sprain your ankle and you don't know you're going to come back in the game, he will freeze it, and you can get out there and you can play and you won't feel it the rest of the game. But that's just the way we were. That's the way we went about things. It's with both of them. They've taught me how to, whenever something gets in your way, you just bulldoze over it and you find a way to get on through it. Thank you to the committee and everybody that voted me in here. What an honor, and I'm so grateful. I guess last but not least, I'll go ahead and get off of here, quit punishing myself, but not only to SWOSU, but I don't think Shelley made it here, but Chad, to you and Shelley, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me a chance to go somewhere and keep my dream alive that I had when I was a little girl. Because whenever I went to OSU, that probably was the first time that I had faced stepping out into the big old world. And I'm my worst critic, and I probably would be able to get through many, many more things if I didn't get in my own way. But we made a way through it, and anyway, I love you guys, and I appreciate it. And thank you very much.